Hi, I'm Lynne, Richmond, Advisory Council on Historic Preservation's Communications and Public Affairs Specialist. Welcome to Preservation Perspectives, the ACHP podcast. Today I'm joined by Mr. Robert Stanton, ACHP Expert Member and former National Park Service Director, the first African American to be Park Service Director. We speak about Juneteenth, a holiday that originated in Mr. Stanton's home state of Texas. We talk about its relevance today and every day. Now join me in welcoming Mr. Robert Stanton. Today is June 19th, Juneteenth, the annual holiday that commemorates the day that Union General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, to inform enslaved African Americans that the Civil War had ended and that they were free. Mr. Stanton, I think that some people confuse that with the Emancipation Proclamation and the 13th Amendment. And what is the true meaning of Juneteenth?
Well, Juneteenth is a continuation of the implementation, if you will, of the Emancipation Proclamation issued by President Lincoln, which became effective on January 1, 1863. But it wasn't until June 19th that General Granger, representing the Union forces, publicly announced to the enslaved persons in Texas and their plantation owners that the Emancipation Proclamation applied to them, and thus those enslaved in Texas were free. What is so sad about that, that was 2.5 years after President Lincoln had issued his emancipation. So we were late getting the word in the state of Texas. But the Emancipation Proclamation, if I might add, did not apply to all states that were slaveholding, if you will, such as Kentucky, Missouri, Maryland, and Delaware, and West Virginia. They still had the authority to have enslaved persons. It wasn't until the ratification of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution that became effective in December 1865 that finally abolished slavery in the United States of America.
You grew up in Texas. What is your personal experience with Juneteenth?
I am proudly a native son of Texas. I grew up in staunchly segregated Texas, and Juneteenth was considered our holiday. It had, during my childhood, it had no official standing, but it was recognized throughout the states that we would not work for anyone on that day. In fact, I even felt sorry for the livestock. They said not to get fed. That was our day to celebrate. It wasn't until 1980 that the Texas legislature enacted a bill signing a law by the governor that made Juneteenth an official holiday in the state of Texas. And again, as a native son of Texan, that was our holiday. We celebrated, we rejoiced in the legacies of our foreparents who were enslaved. We recognized and applauded their courage, but we had a great time on that day. And we did not work. We did not do a number of other things. We celebrated Juneteenth, and we rejoiced, even though Texas, during my childhood, was staunchly segregated.
It's truly hard to believe that 155 years later, our nation is still struggling with the notion of freedom and justice for all. What do these lessons from the past show us about what needs to happen today to attain those ideals for all people?
We need to individually and collectively commit ourselves and recommit ourselves to following through on the letter and the spirit of the Constitution of the United States. We recognize that the Constitution of the United States that became effective in 1788 did not speak to the institution of slavery. The word slavery is not used at all in the Constitution of the United States, and that was not included until the 13th Amendment and its ratification in 1865, followed by the 14th Amendment guaranteeing equal protection under the law, 15th Amendment guaranteeing the right to vote. And what that demonstrates to me in terms of where we are today and the difficulties we're confronting is that progress has to continue to be a part of our daily struggle. We were informed, if you will, over 100 years ago by my own all-time hero, Mr. Douglass. And he stated that I will give you a word on the philosophy of social reform, that all progress is born of earnest struggle. And if there's no struggle, there's no progress. And what we are confronted with today is a struggle to fulfill the letter and the spirit of the Constitution. The struggle is not a passive activity, it's an active activity. And we as responsible citizens have to be active in the pursuit of liberty, freedom, and justice for all. And the current protests, the current demonstrations are, I believe, a part of that struggle.
Yes, Juneteenth, don't you agree, is rather poignant this year of all years. I mean, it's poignant every year, but this year, given the current events that have been happening, where do we go from here? And how can historic preservation help in these efforts?
Well, historic preservation has obviously many benefits. It not only preserves tangible evidence of the contributions of those who have gone before, as well as contemporary society. But historic preservation, I think by definition, contributes to our educational process. It gives us a source of learning, gives us sources for inspiration, and also enhance our understanding and appreciation of the richness of the diversity of our nation, recognizing that many people from different cultures and traditions have made outstanding and lasting contributions to the development of our country. That being said, there is still also some deficiencies, if you will, in terms of our embracement of lessons taught by those who have gone before. So we need to recommit ourselves to learning from our past and hope that we will build a better future from learning of the contributions made by our foreparents. Returning to my home state of Texas and the Emancipation Proclamation and Juneteenth, it is gratifying to see that the spirit of Juneteenth has been embraced nationwide. There are many states now that are celebrating Juneteenth, notwithstanding it may not be an official state or county or city holiday, but nevertheless, you'll find large celebratory activities throughout the 50 states, plus some of the territories, and celebrations here in Washington, D.C. And I know that the governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, my now adopted home state, is advocating formal recognition of Juneteenth throughout the Commonwealth. I should also add that Congress recently passed a bill signed into law by the President authorizing the Secretary of the Interior through the National Park Service to conduct a study on a proposed emancipation trail that would commemorate the movement of freely enslaved persons from the major seaport in Galveston to Freedmanstown in Houston, again commemorating activities that evolved immediately subsequent to General Granger's announcement. But again, the essence of Juneteenth, recognizing that under the Emancipation Proclamation, that was the last public announcement by a Union official that enslaved person was free. But that was only the beginning of a continuing struggle by my ancestors and by my contemporaries to really strive for the freedom and justice guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States. And all of us one day will proclaim loudly and clearly that it's we, the people of the United States of America, and I would be included in the we in all of its forms of justice, freedom, and human dignity.